Hi, my name is Tony Saunders.
And I'm Helen Savor.
Show where we get the insider scoop on new third-party material and supplements on Pathfinder Infinite.
Welcome to
Welcome to
Infinite
Infinite
Reviews
Reviews
with
with
your
your
Infinite
Infinite
Insiders.
Insiders.
We're going to do like a 3, 2, 1 countdown next time.
What are we
Today,
doing that?
we are here with Vic. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Vic. Sorry.
Hey,
So let's jump right into it. Order of the Vault. This is a really interesting supplement. It's a mix of a lot of lore and characters and some items and some concepts for your game. So I want to know what inspired you to publish this.
Yeah, so back in 2019, I decided I wanted to run a Pathfinder game. And I decided I was going to run Rise of the Rune Lords because it was the first one, it's the big one. And so I got my friends together and we ran this wonderful, wonderful campaign. And out of that, one of my players was playing a Hell Knight of the Order of the Nail. And it came about through the story that she wanted to found a new Hell Knight order. One that focused on collecting dangerous magic items. Because if you know anything about Rise of the Rune Lords, spoiler alert, there's lots of wizards and magic items in it. And so it came up. It was important. And so she did. I mean, I let her do it. We went through the whole rigmarole of, convincing them to do it. And she got her little group together and created a Hell Knight order. So fast forward. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I before Helen dives too far into the book, I just had to say that the Order of the Vault, first of all, really cool, and I love the Order of the Nail a lot. But the image on the cover is fantastic. I love the none but the righteous pass, and it's like at this very ominous looking vault with the eye on it. So I have to assume, since it has an actual date on there, like is this a commissioned art piece right here, the one on the cover?
I did it. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you did it. Oh, it's really good. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, the date on it, that was the date that it was founded, 4708, in the game.
Yep. Very cool.
So, thank you. But yeah, so fast forward a little bit to 2021, I guess. I had gotten it in my head that I wanted to try to design for Pathfinder 2e, and I did. I was like, well, I've got this really cool concept already kind of thematically figured out, and so I just sort of expanded on it, and that's what happened. I put it together and sort of flew by the seat of my pants. I had not really ever done anything like this before, and yeah.
Well, I think I think you should be really proud because I mean, and we talked a little bit about this before we got onto the show, but as far as how the material looks, I would never have guessed this was your first, attempt, especially with not just the layout, which is immaculate, but also the fact that the lore cuts are very deep. But right here on the home page, like right coming in, the thing that tells me not only do you mean business because you've done a lot of like work into this, you've got big names that have also, that you're crediting here with maybe some of the research and some of the help that went into it, like Andrew F. Mullen, like, pretty prominent Paizo freelancing author, has a Kickstarter right now for the name is escaping me at this exact moment, which is funny because I'm actually a backer on the Kickstarter. But they have their own like setting.
Is it the Luminant
Dave Nelson?
Age?
I'm sorry?
Luminant Age?
Yeah, Luminant Age. Yes. Thank you for saving me.
Sorry.
And that Mikhail and and Callie are also on that, and it's a very, very strong book. Strong setting. But Dave Nelson, then also another pretty big name, and then Joshua Hennington, who I know very well as basically a Hell Knight aficionado. So I gotta say, if you had the blessings of like these people, and then of course you got Kerry Blandon, Michael Blanton, Lucas Mason, and Nathan Sames, your forever party. So your backing with you seems to be pretty strong, and I think that the supplement kind of speaks for itself, and we'll kind of see that as we go through it. But you should be definitely proud of what you put together. It's a really strong book.
And I'm extremely grateful. I mean, Andrew and Dave and Joshua, all three of them just like jumped right in. Like I asked for help, and they were like, "Yeah, sure, I'll take a look at it." They were super duper helpful, and kind of helping me navigate the style of 2E. And Andrew just took time out of his day to read through it and give me fantastic feedback. So like all three of them, I'm deeply, deeply grateful to.
That's great.
So before we go too far forward into this, for our Hell Knight beginners, for people that are just dipping their toes into what it is to be a Hell Knight, there are some key terms that I feel like maybe you can help us identify. So the different stations is one thing that when I was first learning about Hell Knights that I had to kind of like try to figure out what they meant. So can you walk us through a Paralictor, a Lictor, a Paravicar, and a Marilictor, and kind of tell us like maybe what these different stations within a Hell Knight order means?
Yeah, sure. So the Lictor is, actually, I'm already getting ahead of myself. Normally,
that's okay.
The Lictor is the head of the order. However, occasionally a spellcaster will be the head of the order, which is called a Vicarious. Those are two separate terms, but they're the same role, effectively. Then and they're in charge of the whole order. Then you've got your Master of Blades, who is kind of number 2.
Okay.
In terms of the martial component of the Hell Knights, so they take care of like the actual knights who are, up in the front lines. And then you have the Paravicar, who is the signifier equivalent. So he's the guy who's in charge of all the spellcasters in the Hell Knight order. So then you've got your Paralictors, who are kind of the, let's say, lieutenants. They usually have a group that they command within the order. And then you have Marilictors, who are one step below that. They're not rank and file. They have leadership responsibilities, but they're kind of just like a step up from the bottom.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, is there any special title for the newbies? Are they just Hell Knight? That's good enough for you.
When you're finally initiated, you are called a Hell Knight. However, before you take your test, you are known as an Armiger. So there actually is a special term for newbies.
Gotcha.
And for those that don't know, the special test is is it still the same for everybody? Is it always a bearded devil, or is it just a devil of this? Yep. Okay, all right. So you got to do a 1v1. That's how you get in, if I remember right.
1v1. That's right.
Very cool. Very cool.
I gotta say, one thing that's really cool about this is you're riffing on something specific, and I know Rune Lords are huge and there's multiple things, but to just attach to like a specific adventure path and expand on it, and even if it's an organization, I feel like there's not as much of that, and it's a really great way that you can just riff in Infinite that I just wish there was more of that.
I mean, when they first announced Pathfinder Infinite, and this is just me, but like that was where I initially went, was like, well, this is a fabulous opportunity for people to take that stuff that maybe got like a line or two in a random book in 2014 and like expand on it and be able to, do that in a way that, the community can share and Yeah, I just think that's a super cool way to do it, obviously, because I did it.
Yeah, it was great.
Definitely, and I like how you've kind of walked the line between, like, I think it's, we know what rune lords are. We know that, like, enough about them when we're not doing necessarily spoilers, while still getting to dive into like the meat of the keepers of the vault. So I guess, to kind of like, before we jump into the content itself, is there anything that you want to like set the stage for when we jump right down into like kind of how they became founded in the first place? Maybe like what the vault is. What would you say what would you say sets them apart from like other orders, like say Nail? Like what was the vision for them that made them go off and do something else? Like what was the primary?
Okay. Yeah. So, as I kind of mentioned, the vault focuses on magic items, and the idea at the beginning was that the Order of the Nail focuses a lot on, for better or worse, bringing order to chaotic settings, like clearing out bandit camps and stuff like that. The Order of the Vault, well, and that we won't get into the implications of what the Order of the Nail does today, but the Order of the Vault specifically wanted to take these like crazy magic items out of the hands of people who either didn't know how to use them or did and wanted to really, like there are magic items like that some Joe Schmo could get a hold of and like take over a country. And that aspect of it, I think, is what sets the vault apart. It's less, we're worried about what people will do, and more, we know what people could do if they get their hands on these items. Because some of these items can literally take over your brain, like, and like most people, like as players, we're always like kind of like the expert because we're level 19 and have been, fighting terrible things for months and months. But like most people don't do that. And those are the people that they're trying to protect, and yeah, that's what they care about. It's kind of like a Warehouse 13 situation.
That makes sense. Yeah. Absolutely. Especially with, ancient Thassalon has a lot of dangerous things, so that definitely tracks. It's not it's not a
exactly.
Yeah, it definitely, I think it's, it's definitely a noble cause, that's for sure. So maybe I think I want to know what founded, like, how did they become founded? Let's start from the beginning, right? Like this, as the cover indicated, 4708. What happened in 4708 that brought about the Order of the Vault?
So, as I said, this all came about as part of a Rise of the Rune Lords campaign, and in the setting that occurs between 4707 and 4708. So this was all building up to the inevitable confrontation with Karzia, who, spoiler alert, is the final boss of Rise of the Rune Lords. I know. And it was really just encountering wizard after wizard with scary item after scary item, that the player character, Rosalind, the Hell Knight, had decided, like, there's just not a lot she can do within her particular order to, like, focus on this issue. And so she actually spoke with their Paravicar Asilmar, who canonically is very interested in in Thassalon and Thessalonian artifacts, He canonically is very concerned about what those could do to Varizia. So he was kind of the perfect in to start this conversation about, what can we as Hell Knights do when we have our little niche, and that's what we do. And meanwhile, things are falling through the cracks. And that's kind of where the Order got started, was, I'm willing to throw my support behind you, Rosalind, as kind of the leader of this new group, this new order. And it kind of went from there. I mean, there was a lot of role play of, like,
Sure,
going to the Hell Knight Council and, like, trying to convince them to let her do it. But ultimately it was that need, the need for a group of really qualified individuals to protect Varizia from these Thessalonian artifacts, and then just artifacts in general that were so dangerous and that most people didn't know a whole lot about.
Yeah, and so these artifacts, these would be what we call potentia. Is that correct?
Yeah. So within the Order, I decided it would make sense for them to kind of have, kind of like how intelligence agencies have code words for things that they're pursuing. The Order of the Vault calls these items that they pursue potentia. And I came up with that word basically as a way to signify how powerful and potent they are magically. So that's how they refer to them within conversations with each other, so that, like, other people, so they're not just saying, like, well, time for me to go get Karzug's burning glaive from, gonna go fetch the Sahedron from the vault,
Oh my goodness. Oh, the line.
Yeah, that's what they're called within the.
Oh, sorry. One of the lines I just loved is that each potentia is carefully examined, or in some cases interviewed. I'm like, oh, that's scary. Hello, how are you feeling today, potentia? Who are you gonna destroy? Oh gosh.
Very ominous.
Well, and some of those items, I mean, like Karzug's burning glaive, like, they have their own personalities, and a lot of the time they're not very pleasant. They're not very good.
Okay, you mentioned it twice. I'm skipping to
probably.
it.
I was gonna say, I would imagine that protecting people involves taking the not very good things away often, so that definitely seems valid, for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, I won't lie, and I am a big fan of the SCP. They're a lot of fun, and I do get a lot of, like, the, secure, contain, protect vibes on these potentia. So was the SCP like an inspiration at all for this? And if a GM wanted to use the Order of the Vault, I feel like it would be pretty easy to kind of slip them in with any high magic involvement. But where would you see a GM like using an organization like this, even in places outside of Varizia?
So to answer your first question, I don't know if I specifically sat down and was like SCP,
Sure.
but 100%, like, the connection makes perfect sense. Because some of these items are monstrously powerful, like, and can act on their own volition at times. But to answer your second question, in terms of where they could show up, I mean, anywhere, anytime you want to build a campaign around a specific item, or even a specific civilization, ancient civilizations in particular, I think the Order of the Vault would be a perfect fit, because as I kind of mentioned in there, they do focus on Varizia, but they are not limited to Varizia. They are willing to travel, and if there is a threat of that nature, you can slide them right in. They would be great as PCs or NPCs in any situation where you want to make a campaign around, like, you know, the Holy Grail of Pathfinder. You know,
sure.
like the big fetch quest for the magic MacGuffin.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the. So I was thinking that the character archetype that's in a lot of like I don't know where that they're chasing the Holy Grail, but not. There's usually like one, you know, like I won't say background character, but like a side character that's like following the main party while they're going to find the thing, and they're also trying to do it, but for like, you know, business reasons, like, you know, the government needs it, right? And I definitely feel like an Order of the Vault, you know, like Hell Knight that's shadowing the party, trying to also get a hold of the magic item thing to properly return it to the vault, you know, seems like an archetype that pretty much any GM could use to just kind of slip in a Hell Knight into the campaign. So I quite like that. Like it's very versatile the way that you've built the order while being very dripping in flavors. So kudos, very well done.
And yeah, I agree. I mean, they could be an antagonist. I mean,
Absolutely.
I did, like, in the game and in the supplement, I do kind of lean toward, like, yeah, they do tend to be good natured, but, you know, if they decide something is dangerous and they want to have it, they may not be friendly to you, to your party, or to even like a civilization that holds that thing in high regard. Like most Hell Knight orders, they can be my way or the highway, you know.
Yeah, the lawful is a hard L, right?
Yeah.
A big capital L
Yeah,
in the lawful.
hard L.
What is lawful?
Hard L.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
You having these very strong in personality NPCs. You know, how was this making very memorable NPCs and lore, which these are? I find that tricky. So, do you have any advice on how to strike that balance? Because I feel like these are very interesting and memorable, but for players to be able to make it so they can latch onto these without, mixing them up or forgetting them. I think you did it, but what advice would you have?
Like dividing the line between it does, because it does tempt you, you know, as a player to be this, but it also teases the GM. So it's like, you know, like do I have an NPC? Do I have a PC? Do I have an NPC PC relationship where the PC has been tasked by the NPC to go and retrieve something, you know? Like it's funny because it's very lore rich, you know, for the GM, but it does lend itself to both sides of the table. So I guess to kind of jump on Helen's point, like how do you where do you define the lines between what a PC and an NPC is when they're a member of the Order of the Vault?
For me, I don't personally, and maybe this is because I was the GM, but for me, I don't see a huge difference.
Sure, that actually makes sense.
And the reason being, ultimately, you want them to feel like people. When an NPC feels like a person, that is when the party will latch on to them. And that was kind of when I was playing through the game. Like, I wanted all of them to feel unique, and so in order to do that, I really had to sit down and think about what a person would do. Why would a person join this group? Why would a person follow these rules, even though, you know, they may be from a completely, like, I think one of the characters was basically a thief.
Yeah.
before he joined the Order of the Nail and then the Order of the Vault. Why? Like, why? How would that person get there? Why would they? How would they feel about it? And that translated into my GMing, and then that subsequently translated into how I wrote out these characters. And so I guess in terms of advice, I would advise to look to people you already know. Look to people, look to really iconic, I won't say trophy, but like characters that you've seen in other things you like that left an impact on you, and ask yourself why they were able to do that. And
I mean, I think that that's a great. I'm sorry. Go. I just got so excited because you were talking about a thief becoming a Hell Knight, and then like immediately I got like the image of like Indiana Jones being like, "This belongs in a museum," like, and so like I can just picture a thief would probably be pretty good at retrieving items in general, but that idea of I have to get this item back to the vault. I think that's really great advice to say that let different character archetypes, let people inform the organization. And on the sidebar that's up for the Order of the Vault, first of all, very crisp, delicious looking layout across this entire supplement. But I really like this sidebar, if only because as a colorblind person, it pops very easily for my eyes while having a little bit of color, which I do appreciate. We're color desensitized, not color devoid. Like I don't see in black and white, so I do like colors that I can read particularly well. But we get Lictor, Roslin, Kalis, the Master of Blades, Kesmeric, Paravicker, Eupraxia is it my? I want to make sure I get that right. Of Backracon. So I wanted to say that in particular, Roslin is so. Like I feel like after reading about the character, like I feel like I have a very good indication of who they are. So I think you did very well at making, landing that, making them feel like a person. Which, as far as Hell Knights go, they can be very distant in terms of like relational, how you would maybe bond with them. So I wanted to say like really strong, character connection just right out of the gate on a Hell Knight. Pretty impressive. So
yeah, no, I mean,
and look at that art.
Yeah.
Thank you. They're effective. I mean, at their worst, they're cops, and they are hard to relate to sometimes, especially when you see them in books and you can't see their face because they've got their helmet on and they're these big, scary dudes. But yeah, I mean, there's layers to them. I mean, Rosalind especially, she was the PC, the person that actually played in my game. That's who they played. And so that's probably why she stands out particularly well as kind of like a really rich character. But yeah, like just the way her character grew through the game, I think informed how the vault grew. Because she started out kind of as this lawful neutral, like all business kind of character. And then she ended up really not changing so much in demeanor, but changing in her perspective on things. She grew to really care about protecting people as opposed to just protecting the law and protecting order. And I think that comes out in the vault because they're willing to cooperate with people to protect them from, all these terrible things that threaten that, like somebody could just like go down their basement and, the floor could fall in and there's, a dungeon, like that kind of stuff happens in Varizia. And she cares about protecting people from these like awful things that live in Varizia.
I think that's so just to touch on. I mean, see, I know a supplement is like such a deep cut and really good because it immediately just evokes a bunch of like, you know, pop culture references as I'm like listening to it. But I thought of the movie Men in Black where like Kay is talking to Jay and he's explaining, he's like, the most important thing is that, you know, these people know that the world's potentially gonna end tomorrow, right? That it's gonna blow up. Like that idea of like the Order of the Vault protecting people from magic items and kind of doing that. You know, the best thing to do is to get it out of sight, get it in the vault, and let people go about their lives. Like that protection aspect is very, it feels very good, despite, you know, I guess to touch back on what you said before, where you said it was, she originally, Rosalind had this idea of protecting the law and then became about protecting people. So she started to kind of view the law as a way to protect people, which is really kind of what it should be, you know, in the first place. So I love that, you know, kind of almost finding the compassion within the protecting people from these, you know, devastating items. Very, very cool. But I did think of that. I did think of the Men in Black scene in particular when you were talking just now. I guess if there was, is there a white whale? Is there some item that they're looking for that they haven't found yet? Like this is the item that we have. I guess the glaive would probably be, you know, now that the glaive is out of contention, right? Like, what is public enemy as far as items go for the vault next, or is that kind of a GM's call?
I like to think of that as a GM's call.
Okay.
I could probably think of a few items that they would love to get their hands on, but that's kind of the idea, right?
Sure.
It's like, I want a GM to be able to open up a book, see a cool item, and like in a situation where normally it would be kind of hard to write it in, be able to say, well, we're gonna get to play with this because I'm going to have these people going after this thing, and it's going to be part of the story. There is one item that I'm not going to go on and on about it, but like one item, and I almost wrote a supplement about this, and I may do it again. The Thorn Crown of Iomedae is one that has been missing canonically. The Pathfinders had it, and then some other people had it. It's been passed around. The Knights of Ozim had it, and they lost it. It is MIA still. That would probably be one that they'd be interested in having, and would also probably be one they would get in a fight over, because the Knights of Lastfall, I guess that's what they would be called now. The Knights of Lastfall would fight over it, absolutely, and so would the Pathfinders, I bet. So that might be a cool campaign idea if you want, to do, Quest for the Thorn Crown. There's your 3 factions right off the bat that would absolutely fight each other over it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and not to spoiler anybody, but that crown is heavily involved in the Pathfinder 1 adventure path, Curse of the Crimson Throne. Am I correct on that?
Oh, gosh.
Fairly confident, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm not sure.
I might be thinking of a different crown.
I didn't play that one. I'm not looking it up now.
I know Queen Iliosa is a prominent character NPC in it. So.
Is this the wrong time to look at my shelf?
So the going further down to get, so we make sure we touch on these other characters besides Rosalind, who is, I will say, probably my favorite, but let's give the Master of Blades and the Paravicar a chance, right? Like they're the number 2s for a reason. So can you tell us a little bit about Cass and a little bit about Apraxia?
A NPC I just kind of came up with. I gave Rosalind 2 or 3 different armatures that she was kind of in charge of. And Katz was one of them. And they, I didn't plan it out this way, but they were the one that the party really gravitated to, and maybe that's because I made them a very cute small tiefling with a giant sword. Maybe I should have expected that, but that's what happened. And they they kind of played the role of the sullen, kind of standoffish character that ended up really bonding with Rosalind. The other one, Eupraxia, is actually a character that I sort of made up, but was in the game as one of the Warriors of Wrath that the party ran into in the Runeforge as part of the story. And her story is pretty cool. Basically, their leader, first of all, the Runeforge is kind of a frustrating part of this game for me, because it's a lot of dungeon crawling without a lot of roleplay. And so I wanted to kind of come up with a way to make some of this stuff a little bit more interesting. Because you run into this really cool, badass lady, High Lady Athroxis, and then she just sort of fights you, and that's it. But I had her basically ask the party to duel her as a way to free her from basically this cycle of, basically, these people she was in charge of were getting recycled over and over again for, thousands of years. And she was sick of it. So the party basically freed her from that responsibility. And then Rosalind took all of these Warriors of Wrath and folded them into the Order of the Vault. And Eupraxia was one of them.
So have you thought about writing, the fiction of this?
I have. I have definitely considered it.
I would love to read these stories, like a serial or a novella, I would.
Yeah.
We need more fiction on Infinite.
It would make a great, yeah, we do. It would make a great, kind of mystery serial, right? Kind of like a mystery adventure. I agree. Oh, yeah, boy. Now I'm going to be thinking about that.
Okay, offline. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Serial strong. Serial strong. Yeah.
It definitely seems to, there's more story behind the book itself, that this is really only a taste. But it is it's a morsel at least, but it does leave you wanting to come back for more. I do like that you even went.
Oh, what a shame!
I believe you. I like that you even had other members, besides just the two main interactions. I love that you've kind of given the GM the tools to say, hey, here's a few more NPCs to fill out the roster, so it's not just the bare bones for inserting it into a campaign, because obviously the Paravicar, the Lictor, and the Master of Blades probably going to be busy, a lot. So you've got these other, maybe, the Marilictor, Paralictor, some of these other people might be more available for the PCs.
No joke, put together a classic, I don't know if it's pulp era, but serial adventure team. I've been studying these recently. That's why I think it really resonated. You got it. You got your core, you got your next tier, and you got the tier out that swap in and do this stuff. I'm wow, you struck this.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted, because as GM, as somebody who's played a Hell Knight,
you need this.
The Lictor is not the person who you talk to all the time. It's usually somebody lower, and so and I literally did just want there to be like, well, I want there to be a lawful good, I want there to be a lawful neutral, and I want there to be a lawful evil example of
This is the
people in this
range.
order. Because,
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean, because you're not always going to want quite frankly, like, not everybody in a Hell Knight order is going to be nice all the time. But yeah, I wanted GMs to be able to make this group actually feel real, without having to be like, oh god, I've got to make up 18 NPCs for this next game, because I know how hard that is. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think this entire thing is a testament to like pretty much your GMing in general, because it's almost like you built this house that's very easy to just work with, because there are times where as a GM, having the lawful evil, having Pyros like in the back pocket as like maybe the less than nice person of the group, to be able to pull the strings in the narrative that need to be a little bit more, evil, for lack of, I guess, nuanced take on it. But then you have what I really like is that Rosalind is lawful good, but then both of her immediate subordinates are lawful neutral. So I kind of take that as like, Tess and basically Eupraxia are kind of like the, bringing. I'll say Rosalind to me kind of reads like an idealist, to try to shape the world into a better place. And Eupraxia and Kess kind of give me like the realist vibes, that kind of like they're the ones that have to make the dreams work, right? Maybe Rosalind's good at that on her own, but I gotta imagine that it helps to have two people that probably are a little bit more grounded, I guess, in their beliefs.
And it's interesting because Rosalind sort of mentored both of them, it does put them in an interesting position where, their backgrounds are so different than hers that one of them was raised by bandits, and the other one basically didn't have a life. She was stuck inside a Thessalonian dungeon for 10,000 years. So yeah, I would agree. Like, just maybe it's less that she's an idealist, but she was raised in like, Rosalind lived in like the normal world, right? Like, she had a home, she had a family. She lost that family. Tess and Eupraxia did not, and I think they're kind of, honestly, messed up backgrounds have them see things differently than Rosalind sometimes.
It definitely feels like it feels like a very like a unit of a group. So, and I think that having all those different narrative threads to be able to pull on as far as NPCs go, very smart, very versatile. It definitely shows that you had to run this, right? Like, as a GM, you were able to make your narrative work strongly because of the structure that you put in here. And I can only imagine that you probably had to cut off some members probably didn't make the cut for the page, but that doesn't mean they're not important members of the Order of the Vault. So,
and I cut myself off in part because I knew, I know other GMs want to be creative too.
Good point.
So, giving them enough to go on while leaving a lot of questions. That's the stuff that like Paizo does well, I think, in their stuff, is that, they give you a lot of information, but then they leave you a lot of questions as well that you have to answer as a GM or as a player. So that, to me, is what
I think you succeeded for sure.
It strikes such a balance. This this strikes such a good balance on really getting into this organization and people. I feel like, though, it would be remiss if we don't learn a little bit about some of the options that this organization has, though. So I want to pivot
options.
a little bit into character options, because you did do some fun stuff here. Um, Tell me and walk us through Disjoin Potentia.
So this is the greater benefit that you gain from the Order of the Vault Hell Knight dedication. And more or less, it allows the Hell Knight to use a touch to deactivate magic items, and some. Let's see. I read through this and I'm gonna read it again. Yeah. So, and then it's not at level 18. It allows you to affect artifacts as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I created this ability basically as an ability that only the higher level people would be able to use, because only the higher level people are going to have their hands on really dangerous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Like, I got the idea basically from like mages. It's basically a focused mages disjunction.
Mm-hmm.
That allows them to contain and secure dangerous stuff without having to destroy it or permanently remove those the abilities that the items have, so that they can study them later, or so that they can preserve them if they need them for something. It's
so
not
I was,
let's just get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be my next. I gotta imagine that there might be some Order of the Vault dissenters that are saying that they're amassing these artifacts for like malicious purposes, right? Like that maybe their intentions aren't good. It's like, otherwise, why not destroy them? Why preserve them in the vault? You know. So, but it's a very cool way.
That is. Yeah, that's absolutely a fair point, right? Like, why wouldn't you want to destroy an evil, intelligent item? But then again, what does that item know? And what could you learn from it?
What does the item know? That is terrifying.
Yeah.
And of course we have
Tarzan's burning life is.
I can only imagine. I gotta think that if you're burning all the time, that you probably have a very a stark opinion on life. Especially as an item. But I do have to give props, so you did all of the art for this book, just to reiterate.
I did.
Yeah, this suit is awesome. It is really hard for me to not the visor definitely gives me like very Mandalorian vibes, and I'm a huge Mandalorian fan, so love that. But it did immediately perk my idea here that, you know, I know the alt typically probably only goes after items and even intelligent items, but would they ever protect maybe like a small magical creature, maybe like a baby with like pointy ears? Like, would that ever happen? Would there be an Order of the Vault narrative of protect the baby?
Baby rare creature that's magical.
You know, it's possible. It's entirely. I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to do that in your game.
I might.
Order of the Vault puppies calendar, but it's all dangerous creatures.
Yeah, like a pugwampy. Just like the world's worst pugwampy. Just super misfortune. Literally just disaster ensues. But this Hell Knight has to get the pugwampy to the vault.
Oh Lord. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So the the Vault Knight visor,
Mm-hmm.
which is, gotta love that visor.
Mm-hmm.
Detect magic feels very on brand, obviously, like they're looking for magic items. So having an affixed item for their armor just totally fits, informs the mechanics and the narrative. So really love that. And yeah, the armor just pops. I really quite like it.
I'm curious. How did you decide?
Was interesting.
You go.
Oh, go ahead. Ask me the question.
How did you decide which items to pick to do art for and not? Because it sounds tough. You had a lot of great things to highlight.
Gotta do the armor.
So
well, okay, the armor may be more obvious, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a combination of asking myself what I would want to see in a book, especially if it was something I wasn't familiar with. Like, if I were a player, I would want to know what my armor looks like. I would want to know who my boss is, or who my bosses are. And then the other part of it, and I'll just be perfectly honest, it was, what can I draw in a reasonable, what can I reasonably actually create? Which is why I drew Karzuk's Burning Glaive, because there's already art of it. And I'm not going to lie, that's part of why it is in there.
Okay.
To be fair, it's also one of the most important items.
Yeah.
So, valid,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was partially like, how am I going to not kill myself trying to, visualize and create these items when literally I've got one sitting right there in front of me, and it's perfectly fine for me to recreate it. So I'm going to recreate it. But yeah, in terms of everything else, all the characters and stuff, I wanted anybody who read this to be able to visualize at least a few of these people, and especially what your character is going to look like once you get your armor, and because that's important.
It is, absolutely.
It's important for a player to, and if you look badass, you're going to want to play that character, and I think their armor's pretty badass.
It's very badass. I love it.
Yeah.
Not to.
It's good.
I guess.
Sorry to interrupt the flow. I was just curious. Yeah, it's great armor.
No, I mean, even one, I've noticed that the sigils have carried through on pretty much every piece of art in the book, and I love that the armor itself on the pauldrons, on the neck guard, on the the thighs and the knee joints for the legs, all have those little rune sigils, which is really, really cool. So I mean, I think that if your goal was to say, hey, what does an Order of the Vault look like when they're in their armor, nailed it. It's so cool. I'm in, right? That looks great.
Yeah, those are actually Thessalonian runes. I copied those straight off of the.
But you brought it in.
Yeah, they're
another deep cut.
So another deep cut. I'm all about my deep cuts.
That's I'd say that's very valid.
I'm gonna shift us slightly into the treasures. I gotta say
let's see what's in the vault.
These rune warded gauntlets, talking about when worn, it suppresses the magical qualities of a single intelligent item. And I can just imagine, someone holding a sword, yelling at, can't hear you, can't hear you, can't hear you, trying to transport stuff around. I know it's a treasure of the vault of a treasure in the vault, but it's gotta really help these knights out.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that was why I put them in. Was I wanted them to basically have these it's basically the equivalent of going into the alien alien nest with your little suit on, to protect you from the radiation and the googe. It's the same thing, and I wanted to make sure that that there was a way for them to transport this stuff without putting themselves at risk. Especially the intelligent items that can literally change your alignment by touching them.
Yeah.
Practical and lore adjacent. I also love that sky metal is apparently is very key in protecting people from artifacts. And you've made that very clear, not only with the vault, but also because the gauntlets are sky metal as well.
Love it.
Very cool. I will say that, it's funny because all of the other items are much stronger than it, but I was very drawn to, I mentioned during our director's cut commentary that I was a huge fan of the Spell Thief in 3.5. So Scimitar of the Spell Thief is very cool. I quite like it. I like scimitars in general. But this item in particular it did catch my fancy. Also, as a note to how the quality of this product is, something that people don't always get right, all of the traits in this entire book are in perfect order and in great colors. So thank you so much for getting, that's like an artist's touch right there. Like I would say that this is what made me think that this was a well-handled supplement and that you were a vet. But
yeah, you're reading product here. Alphabetical is like, oh geez, when I'm editing something, get the right order.
Yeah, it's
you did the color dropper just right.
But anyway, back to this the Scimitar of the Spell Thief. What's the inspiration on this item?
So all of the items here were originally in 1E. So what I effectively did was try to translate them into 2E to the best of my ability. So this guy was a little complicated in 1E. So I simplified it a little bit. I wanted it to do what it said on the tin. And I think I did manage to do that. It was a little bit more complicated in 1E in that, there was a little bit more kind of hinkiness with like which spell do you steal and all that. But the reason I included it, I think because I think conceptually it makes sense for them to. I mean, stealing a spell from a wizard, like, that's gonna fuck up their day. And,
oh my god, yeah.
Again, if somebody gets a hold of this thing and uses it on the wrong people, that could cause problems. So, yeah, it's a weaker item as compared to some of the other ones in here, but it's I think probably out of all of them, it's the item that a player character would most likely have in their hand.
That's fair. I would argue that this would probably be this would be one of those items that the Hell Knight of the Order of the Vault maybe busts out every once in a while. Would you say that would be true?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, for sure.
Probably very useful for Rune Lord handling.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I gotta ask, have you ever thought about coming back to this project and expanding the contents of the vault?
What if we bribed you?
I have.
Tony can bribe you. I don't have that Team Plus money.
I don't know about that, but
no, I don't. I know.
In its original incarnation, there was supposed to be a map of the Citadel. There was supposed to be more items. And I think definitely now that I'm more experienced, I would probably try to design some original items. I went with 20 ports because I felt like it would be a good learning experience. Because again, this was the first time I'd done it, and I wanted to make sure I had a good base. So in the I could probably do another supplement about these guys, especially now that I have more experience under my belt. And I may do it. I don't know. I've got a lot of ideas.
It would go really well with some fiction.
Yeah, there you go. Do the fiction.
The fiction. Yeah, we'll talk about the fiction. That is also a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
A distinct one.
Nice.
So I guess before before we go, like uh, to the end of the vault, if you will, I did, the way that the
Mm-hmm.
Order of the Vault got created was Rosalind essentially, was a part of a different order and then founded this new order, and so it got me thinking, what would be the order that a member of the Vault had been a part of that they, someone in the Order of the Vault says, "Oh, well, my calling is similar but adjacent." Like, what would spin off of the Order of the Vault? Is there like maybe a next logical step for an order outside of the Vault, but maybe has a calling that isn't too far removed?
I think the next logical step, from this sort of secure, as you said, secure, contain, protect. I think the next logical step would be study and reintroduction. And in the in the supplement, I talk about how they collaborate a lot with the Pathfinders, as a result of their partnership in the campaign, to be honest. But I think that would be kind of the point of, like, as you said, like, that'd be the point of contention. Like, what are all of these things doing just sitting around?
Good point.
And so maybe it would be, the Order of the Tome, or the Order of the Wands, or something like that.
You had me with Tome. I feel like
Tome's good. I like
Tome. Tome feels, like a documentarian type, like, yeah, I could see that.
I could spitball that.
Yeah. That just that besides, I don't think keeping these items locked away for the rest of however long is the best way to utilize them. And obviously I'm flying off the seat of my pants here, but like, those intelligent items, like I said, they know things, and they have alignment, and alignments can be changed. So there's,
that's
there are things to think about.
Rehabilitation of the intelligent items. I kind of dig it. Like,
coming this November. Sorry.
where the members of the Order of the Vault, maybe there's a new member that's, like, no, like, these are things that we need to try to, like, say, we leave that in the vault and don't touch it. Like, I could definitely see someone building a narrative around that now. So perhaps it will be cyclical. Perhaps there'll be another GM who takes your Order of the Vault and then builds off of that for a similar narrative to what happened with Rosalind. I think it would be a very I think it would be very cool if eventually, like, Rosalind, like, was maybe resistant to the idea, but then was the one that ultimately, like, was like, they had a calling like I had a calling, like, that would be very cool. So so
I agree.
in addition to the ideas and things we've tasked you with coming back to us, so expanded vault, small fiction, but what other projects do you have going on in your future? Like, what are you working on right now, Vic?
The big thing I'm working on right now, it's part of my work with EOG. It's a book. It's going to be, I'm not sure when it's going to come out, but it's called Blood of Rivals. Ooh. And it's going to expand on a lot of Aasimar and Tiefling, which that's not what they're going to be called, but
right.
feats, heritage feats.
Nice.
And the biggest thing that I'm doing with this book is I'm writing an original pantheon for GMs to use in games that are not Galarian based, or maybe that are Galarian based where they don't want to use the same gods.
Nice.
Sure.
And I'll be making them, and then ideally also coming up with archetypes and dedications and things that relate to those gods as well. But there's going to be a lot of feats and archetypes and things that kind of center around like celestial and fiendish creatures, because those are just the things that I like to think about a lot. But I'm really excited about that one. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's actually, that's the big one. So
that
look out for
like
that.
Plenty.
And just in general, EOG's got a lot of things kind of in the cooker right now. I know we're getting close to finishing up the Kickstarter campaign that we did for, well, the Kickstarter campaign's done, but like fulfilling it with the Monstrous project, and super excited about that. I did some work for that, a lot of art in the book.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's
so yeah,
fun. I'm very intrigued for sure to see which pieces you did for that, because it's going to be a very popular supplement, I'm pretty sure. I think the Kickstarter did very well.
I think it is. It did, yeah. I was very, very excited. But yeah, so that's what I've got coming up, and yeah, I'm super, super excited to talk about Order of the Vault with you guys today.
Oh, cool.
It's very close to my heart.
Oh.
Absolute pleasure. Great.
This is great.
Easy read. Definitely a lot of fun.
Yep. Hey, is there, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you just want to shout out?
I've already shouted out EOG stuff, so just, if you happen to use the Order of the Vault in your game, please let me know, because I'd love to hear about it.
Cool.
Absolutely. I might hit you up. I'm not gonna lie, because I had too many ideas going through this book to not. Something's gonna happen. So.
Yep.
But
absolutely.
I do want to make sure that everybody else understands. Like, first of all, thanks for coming to our show tonight. We really appreciate it. Vic was so kind to basically walk us through a really, really interesting, cool, deep cut of a Hell Knight order, which, to be honest, the Hell Knights are very popular. They're very, they haven't had a lot of expansion since the World Guide, so it is, I would say it's very new right now. So please check out Order of the Vault on Pathfinder Infinite. It's honestly a steal, and the art and layout is gorgeous, top of the line product. And who knows, maybe Vic will treat us with a follow-up in the future, and we'll get an expansion to the vault. So.
There you go.
Well, thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
So, so thanks for listening tonight, guys. Thanks for Vic and everything coming on, like Tony said. Now, this channel is going to be coming up next is a little unusual. We're not just doing some Infinite reviews. Actually, next Monday at 9, right, Tony?
That is correct.
9 Eastern, so our usual 9 o'clock time slot. But on Monday, we're going to have an interview with Team Plus, so that's Tony and Derry, celebrating, I believe, their 1-month anniversary and talking about some of their news coming up. So
not 1 month, 1 year.
1 year. What did I say? What did I say?
You did say 1 month, and I was like,
wow, they've done a lot in a month, folks. It's been quite a time. 1 year anniversary. Gosh, guys, it's been crazy.
Anniversary is coming up. Yeah.
1 year anniversary, so that's going on, and with PaizoCon coming up next week. Gosh, I should have decided. It'll probably be Thursday at the same time. There's a chance we might do Friday. We will do a rundown of the contents of the PaizoCon Infinite Mega Bundle. We've got over 20 items right now, discounted 80% off. So we'll talk a little bit about all of those things coming up. And then we will resume our normal coverage on June 8th. We're going to take a little bit of a break after all that. Whew! And that's when we'll sit down with Alan Tucker, new to Pathfinder Infinite, but veteran of other things in the drive-through space, and talk about his new adventure, the Light at the Shark Teeth Grove. So thanks for joining us tonight. And now we're Infinite Insiders out.